All right, hello again, friends. It's been a little while since I've been back on here, and I could give you the 100 reasons, or we can just dive back in. So, anyway, you're getting the other view of my craft room today as I'm over here at my sewing machine table. But anyway, let's pick up where we left off, which was we were talking about unquenchable fire. We were talking about the type that to baptize means to submerge, and we were talking about John and Jesus following him. So we are going to read in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and I'm going to read all three of them actually, and then we will break them down. They all say the same thing, but Matthew's account is a little bit more in depth. So I'm going to start here in Matthew 3:13, and I will read through Matthew 3:17. So let's pick it up here. Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. And John tried to prevent him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and you're coming to me? But Jesus answered and said to him, Permit it to be so now, for thus it is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness. And then he allowed him. When he had been baptized, Jesus came up immediately from the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting upon him. And suddenly a voice came from heaven, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Okay, so now we are going to go over to Mark, and this is going to be in Mark 1 9 through 11. It came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and he was baptized by John in the Jordan. And immediately coming up from the water, he saw the heavens parting and the Spirit descending upon him like a dove. Then a voice came from heaven, You are my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. See, that's a much shorter account. And same in Luke. We're going to go to Luke 3 21 and 22. When all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Jesus also was baptized. And while he prayed, the heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended in bodily form like a dove upon him. And a voice came from heaven which said, You are my beloved Son, in you I am well pleased. So now we will take it back here and discuss it back into Matthew. Like I said, they has a um, more of a descriptive account here. So a few things are happening now. So now Jesus is coming on to the scene. So we had John discussing things with the Pharisees, had all the people coming from around the Jordan, so from Jerusalem, Judea, okay, so in all the region around. And now we have Jesus just comes right onto the scene, okay, and he attempts to be baptized by John. And John wants to, I should say, John attempts to stop this, right? As in any of us for a reason, why would you baptize you, right? When you should be baptizing me. And so he said, permit it to be so, for this fulfills all righteousness. So remember, we spoke before that baptism has long been a part of the Jewish culture. And so this is not new. So what's happening here is Jesus is baptized in water, okay? And this is going to identify himself with righteous. So as righteous with the law, okay? So the Jews were baptized in water. Of course, this was going to be by John to say that they would follow the law, right? And so until Jesus fulfills the law, he must obey the law. So he identifies himself as righteous with the law by being baptized in water. Okay. Secondly, he is showing that baptism is a form of identification. And so he is doing what we are called to do, right? So he is giving us this example here. And being baptized by John, he is identifying himself as that John's preaching was preparing the way to the kingdom. So he's identifying himself with John's preaching because remember when John was preaching and baptizing, he was preaching and baptizing in the name of follow the Messiah, follow the Christ, right? So to the one that I will point you to. They were trusting in the Lord, that John would be that forerunner to point them to the Messiah. So that's when John was baptizing. Okay. So Jesus being baptized by John is this symbolic that is um, he's identifying himself as the truth of John's preaching. Okay, so that is why Jesus needed to be baptized. So that kind of answers that question. In no way whatsoever was he a sinner in need of salvation. It had to do with identification purposes, and so in following the law. So we have a couple things happening here, though. We are seeing the triune Godhead, so the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Remember that Jesus was always God, okay? And he was always present, as with the Spirit. We know this through much study, all the way back into the book of Genesis, right? We, our, and so the pronouns used there. He's always been present. But here we physically see the triune Godhead, okay? When it says that he came up from the water, right? The heavens opened, and the Spirit of God descending on him like a dove, right? He wasn't a dove, but it was the physical form of like a dove, okay? And alighting upon him, okay? And then the voice of heaven saying, so this is God, that this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. And God has identified Jesus as the Son of God. And so we have that triune Godhead there. So Jesus in person, Spirit like a dove, and God the Father is speaking. And so um, this is, like I said, this is the example of that triunity there, and um, him saying that it says as he came up from the water, right? So Jesus came up from. This is again identifying the submersion, the baptism of submersion. He was submerged in the water. This wasn't a sprinkling. This wasn't a dabbing. This wasn't a just dip this. This was a submersion into the water. He came up from the water. And so um, we have God verbally identifying Jesus here. And over in Luke, Luke adds that as Jesus was praying, okay, the heavens opened up. And so this is going to give us, that's a little detail that's just a tad bit different that was added in. But clearly, when we're given those types of things, we need to heed that information, and clearly is incredibly important to be in constant prayer. That's where Jesus was, even in this moment, this glorifying moment. And of course, we're going to read all through his walk, okay, of him being in continual prayer. And so this is just kind of the beginning of that. But it does add that he was praying, okay, as this was happening. And so we will finish up this one right there. It's a little quick video, kind of end is actually supposed to be part of the previous one, but anyway, we'll finish there. And next up is going to be what's called the temptation narrative.